Well, now for something completely different, as they say over on Prime Video, we have a new period crime drama called Young Sherlock. And here's a clip.
Larceny. It's leaving. Those days aren't really behind me. I'm in Oxford now.
You have to promise me something.
Anything, Mother.
Stay out of trouble.
Sherlock Holmes. James Moriarty. Sherlock is speaking French.
Sherlock never made any friends.
What game are we playing today?
What game would you like to play?
Yes, Prime Video. You know I'm a bit of a fan of this platform. So this is 8 episodes. Young Sherlock, and it's directed by Guy Ritchie. Now, before these podcasts, I try not to read other people's reviews before I sort of have a look at it myself, because sometimes it can create that unconscious bias, can't it? But I wanted to with this because Guy Ritchie does have a certain thing that he does, doesn't it? You kind of know that it's a Guy Ritchie directive, and you do with this too. You know, it does have that kind of those punch ups and the kind of oys and the shouting across the room and the flat caps and, you know, everything that goes with what you associate with a Guy Ritchie film. However, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I think the things that he directs are really very, very good, and you know, they're brilliant actually. And in this is we see Sherlock Holmes, kind of the original. So we're going back in time. We're going to the 1870s England, and they're reimagining this character. And so I suppose if you're a big fan, this maybe is part of the jigsaw puzzle, I guess. And I also think it will be interesting for a lot of people watching this as to whether their imagination imagined that a young Sherlock Holmes would be like this in comparison to kind of where we end up. So he's fairly unruly. He's played by Hero Fiennes Tiffin. Anyway, he plays the part, and you see him heading off to university. And one thing I really like about this is the script. I think the narrative is for me is really, really good. He's a really cocky, articulate person, privileged, but he's got an older brother who wants to just keep him on the straight and narrow. And he thinks he's heading off to Oxford University, the greatest place for education, of course. He thinks he's going to learn, but he's not, and he turns up and he's given this pinny, and he needs to go and, as they call it, clean the shitter, and that's how it starts. Am I allowed to say that on this podcast? Maybe not. I've said it. I've done it. I've gone and done it. I've only gone there. And so you see him as a character, as a youngster, growing into the person that we now know, and he's naughty. He's off the rails, and the idea of this is to keep him on the rails and to keep him but of course, there's the girl that turns up, the moneyed girl. He gets himself into all sorts of trouble, and serious trouble with the law. And you see all of that play out. I personally, I found it really engaging, actually. I really enjoyed this. As I say, if you are a big fan, will this live up to your imagination? Did you imagine what he was like as a youngster? I don't know. But I thought it was really good. It has all the brilliance of a Guy Ritchie directorship, and lots of action. And a really good script, I thought. What did you think, Ian?
I enjoyed episode 1. Yeah, I think you're right. I think people can be a bit sniffy about Guy Ritchie's work, but it's always entertaining. And of course, he's previously directed a Sherlock Holmes film, hasn't he, with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law. There is a film about Sherlock Holmes during his school days, which is pretty good. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, this one, it's very Guy Ritchie, you can't deny it. And yeah, it starts, Sherlock's in prison and Mycroft gets him out of prison and sends him off to Oxford to work as, I think they call it, a scout. So he's basically kind of skivvying for the students and the professors. You've got Joseph Fiennes, his uncle. You've got Colin Firth as Sir Bucephalus Hodge. Yeah, he's great in this. And Hero finds Tiffin. Posh people do give their kids strange names, don't they? But and then you've also got Donald Finn as Moriarty, of course, who ended up being Sherlock's nemesis in later life. And I gotta say, he practically blows everyone else off screen because he's so good in this. He's hugely charismatic. So it's real kind of crash bang wallop stuff. This Chinese princess arrives at Oxford and she has these precious scrolls, which of course are then stolen, although suspicion initially falls on Sherlock because he has the keys to the place where they were being kept. Yes, it's up to him and Moriarty to solve the crime. So I think if you're a fan of the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock, which was quite cerebral and quite understated, I guess, in some ways, this is a very different kettle of fish. But I did get carried along by the sort of the action, although occasionally I thought this doesn't seem as sort of, for a Sherlock mystery, as complex as you might like. But yeah, I thought it was perfectly enjoyable. You've also got Natasha McAlone as Sherlock's mum, and we see a flashback to a tragedy that happened when Sherlock was a little lad. So yeah, I think it's enjoyable. If you're a die-hard Sherlock Holmes fan, purist, you might not be quite so keen, but yeah, there's plenty in there to keep you royally entertained.